the different choirs of angels, and there's 9 of them, they teach you different things. And the first group of angels, which this is the kind of angelic magic I teach my students, the kind of theurgic Solomonic, because it comes from King Solomon apocryphally, at least comes from medieval times, right? But I believe it actually goes all the way to King Solomon. So this theurgic Solomonic magic, it calls upon the 72 named angels, sometimes called the 72 Shem angels. And they are in many ways a mirror to the 72 goetic spirits in the lesser key of Solomon, or the Goetia. So these angels, though, teach you about service, and they teach you about service by serving you. And you ask them for all this kind of stuff, and they'll help you, or they'll veto it if it's going to bring more chaos to your life. If a request would bring more chaos to your life, they'll veto it. If it will bring more harmony to your life, then they'll grant it, assuming that you get all the other elements of the ritual correct. Because they're higher dimensional beings, so they can look down and see the near-term future and determine if something's going to perhaps be bad for you or whether it be good. But they teach us service by serving us. So right away, we're taught that the angelic realms are ultimately there to serve us. And how they serve us is by making us more, they act as a polarizing force, along with the Malachians on the other end. The angelic realms and the Most High, they act as a polarizing force that brings humanity into a state of consciousness of harmony and peace, and just a higher understanding of how to relate to one another in a much better way. And so they teach service by granting prayers or wishes. That's who responds to prayers. When Christians are praying and then their prayers get answered, it's those 72 named angels. Magic, one of the things the angels have told me is that magic is essentially a scientific practice of ritualized prayer that uses basically hermetic principles in order to make it much more likely to manifest the way you want. And so that's what the angels teach you. Well, I was doing that for a while, and then I felt like, gosh, should I really be ordering around these beautiful beings of light, the angels? And so as part of the ritual that I teach, you communicate with the Archangel Raziel. And I'm able to, especially now, but even back then, I could telepathically have a conversation with Archangel Raziel. And one day I said to him, I feel bad about ordering these angels around. And he said, oh, no, don't. That's literally their purpose. That's what that particular class of angels, that choir, that's what they want to do. They're fulfilling their purpose. And I said, okay, well, how can I serve the celestial current? And he said, now you're asking the right question. And ever after that, all the magic that I've learned that has changed my life in miraculous ways, unbelievably miraculous ways, has been through gnosis, directly taught from the angels, right? So Archangel Raziel said, if you would like the answer to your question, you need to work with 3 archangels. And so I worked with 3 archangels, and they all asked me to serve. They asked me to serve others. They asked me to deliver messages. They asked me to do acts of charity. They asked me to reach out to friends I hadn't talked to in a while that I thought might be isolated. They made me think of friends I hadn't thought of in years and reach out to them. So the archangels taught me to serve others, to be of service. And then the next choir is the Principalities. And once you get beyond archangels, in my experience, and I'm not saying that, I'm certain there's especially rabbis probably, and probably also magicians or priests in India working with the devas. So like the Indian aspect, like the angels through the Indian collective cultural context, right? With all its thousands of years of history. The angels are called the devas, right? The angels, I forget what they're called in the Sumerians, but they talk even about Archangel Michael. So the angels are not Jewish or Christian or Muslim, despite the fact that they're heavily featured in the main historical documents of the all 3 of those Abrahamic faiths, right? But they're also mentioned by the Sumerians, and they're also mentioned by the Indians. They just call them devas. There's not a lot of information about any of the choirs above archangels, in my experience. I didn't do a super thorough investigation, but when I started out on this, I wanted to learn all about them, especially as I was starting to have this thing. And so I did look, And I didn't go super duper deep because the angels just were like, well, you don't need to, we'll show you. And so you can look up some of the qualities of the acquirers above the archangels, but there's very little out there. But one of the qualities of the principalities is that they act as messengers. They act as messengers between the different choirs and spheres of angels, and also they sort of take messages and prayers from humans that are more appropriately answered by higher order angels. They take it up the food chain, so to speak, and they act as, among other things, they're also like guardians and gatekeepers. And what the principalities teach you is that you need to be guarded with the words that pass the gate of your mouth and try and have them be primarily uplifting. And I fail at this, right? Like sometimes I get irate about whatever kind of thing, and I don't speak with the kind of like humility and respect that I should, right? And so they teach you that we need to be giving messages that are uplifting, and to remember what an incredible impact our words have on the world, on ourselves, and on others, and that we should really be speaking in a way that's going to increase harmony in the world, not bring more chaos and suffering, but instead increase harmony and healing. So then in the second choir, or the second sphere of angels, right? The first three that I was talking about are in the third sphere, and they're closest to us in vibration. Closest in vibration are angels, then there's archangels, then there's principalities. And at a phase shift change, there are then the virtues are next. And the virtues, I perceive them as three beautiful, just really feminine and just really sweet and loving. Like they look like maidens, but they have a very mothering type energy to them, almost like a combination of mother and maiden energy. I don't really know how to explain it better than that, but they appear to me part of the female polarity, and they are the angels that teach prophecy and healing. And I often talk about in this channel, like, fight the black pill. The black pill is so bad, right? It's fifth generational warfare that we're involved in at this point, with the globalists, with Davos, right? And one of the primary things they're doing is they're attacking us psychologically. In this field of fifth generational warfare, this information warfare, where the primary mode of attack is an attack on the mind, they use black propaganda, they use black pilling. It's kind of like the tip of the spear for the main thing they're doing is trying to demoralize. It's demoralization. And one of the best ways to do that is actually not to hide Davos and all those guys, but instead put them way right in your face and tell you all the horrible stuff they're up to, and make it appear that all the horrible plans they have are inevitable. And then you might get so horrified by this that you then go around and blackmail others. So the virtues were like, no, you need to give out healing prophecies. From now on, you'll give out uplifting prophecies. There's sometimes there's harsh truths in what they pass through me, right? But most of the time it's like very healing and uplifting, actually. And they also said that I needed to really focus on healing myself and healing others. So the virtues teach you to speak into existence a better world with prophecies of good, that you then say the prophecy and then you make it a self-fulfilling prophecy by acting on it. And usually, in order to do that, you have to do healing. The virtues also hold these three chalices: the chalice of tears, where most of the time we have to transmute trauma with the chalice of tears. They also hold a silver chalice where we can transmute certain trauma and suck energy with laughter. And then there's the golden chalice. There's the copper chalice, which is the chalice of tears, the silver chalice, which is the chalice of laughter. And then there's the chalice of gold. And the chalice of gold is joy. And you drink from it and you feel joy. You feel the frequency of the Most High, which is joy. And which is, when you look at babies, you see a baby is just naturally in a state of joy. That's the natural state of humanity, actually. And you could say that if you're needing to heal from needing to heal from the horror of the Malachian world, usually you need the chalice of tears. And if you're still stuck in that, if you were traumatized by Malachian consciousness, or you yourself are stuck in it, which are almost always one and the same. Almost everyone who's stuck in Malachian consciousness has been harmed by people in Malachian consciousness. And that's kind of how that mind virus spreads. I mean, that's why they do the harm of children, to keep the lower astral open, and also to spread that mind virus of pedophilia, because it keeps that gateway open and it keeps traumatizing more people. And it's, from a demonic point of view, they love it. So a lot of times you have to drink from the copper chalice, the chalice of tears, and transmute that energy. And then when you transmute enough of that, you can kind of move into a more Luciferian level, right? Like most comedians are kind of Luciferian consciousness because they're witty and clever and biting and sharp, and they kind of see it, but they're also like kind of smug and kind of like self-interested usually, right? There's some that are better than that, right? But they're kind of like very often have a real smug attitude to them, the ones who are good and actually funny, right? And there's a few, there's like Sam Tripoli, of course, and Jimmy Dore, who are like genuinely funny and like genuinely good people, genuinely moving at a higher level. But I would say most comedians are like somewhere in the kind of Luciferian consciousness. Not that they're condemned to it or it makes them bad or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, it's good. Hey, good. You're above the Malachian consciousness. Good job. You're on the cutting edge of consciousness for humanity. It's actually like kind of a positive. And most high, like, comedy doesn't super work at the level of most high consciousness. I will just tell you, like, there's always like some kind of slightly mean or shocking element to comedy that makes it good, but it causes that release of energy. But then the golden energy is joy, and then that can just transmute everything. And so the virtues teach about those three ways of healing, but they also teach just about healing and about speaking into existence good prophecy. So then there's the powers. And some of these angels have sacred names that I'm not allowed to share. The powers, they look like, basically, usually for me, like Greek, basically a Greek phalanx, right? Like 300 style with angel wings. And they're the guardians of the innocent, especially in the astral realm. And they do things like protect children and babies in the astral realm. And they're much more active when they're in yugas, where they can intervene more. They can't intervene almost at all unless they're asked during the Kali Yuga. And then even then, sometimes they can't intervene. So, but they're guardians, and they also guard the higher realms and make sure that there's like a hard stop, that no even slightly dark energy can make it past them. And they teach you the importance of protecting innocence, and that you have to guard innocence, and not just innocence out there like children, which, yes, you definitely need to do that. But we also have to guard our own innocence by not harming ourselves by, for example, like watching porn or watching horror movies. And I get some people like those things, and I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you, more than likely those things are causing some level of harm to you. Certainly porn is. But so protecting our own innocence, and there's a lot of ways that we can protect our own innocence, and also to stay open to our own innocence. So they teach us the principle of there's things worth fighting for, and we must protect the innocent. So then there's the dominions. And of all the different classes of angels, I can't reveal this, unfortunately. So I'm not claiming unique knowledge here. I will say that from what I've been told, not a lot of people know what I've been gifted to see. But one of the weirdest things or shocking things to me was what the dominions look like. And no, I can't even give any hints. I just didn't expect it. I guess I can give one hint. They look like something that there's representations of this in the ancient world. I'll say that. I can say that, and that's about it. And they're very kind of shocking looking, but they are the ones who pick the good kings on earth, decide who is worthy of kingship, which of course nowadays is CEO. So all these people who are super wealthy now, they've been chosen. Their soul, it's a time. The dominions choose who these kings are. They choose who these kings are, who these kings' advisors are. They choose who is going to wield power on behalf of the Most High. And what they teach us is the importance of sacred humility, that we have to be very competent. We have to be very, hardworking. We have to be very serious about what we're doing. It doesn't mean we have to be like serious and morose all the time, but I mean, take what we're doing seriously. We can be lighthearted and carry out our work, but we have work to do. And that when we do that, we have to lead by example, and we have to have sacred humility. And so the dominions choose that. The dominions also taught me that bankers are not evil. They simply direct the flow of money. And in a Kali Yuga, that money flow, which is just an energy flow, has to go to people who are Malachian consciousness primarily. And then the next served are Luciferian consciousness. And the least served are Most High consciousness. But that's changing. One of the things the Dominion said is that these bankers distribute resources. And they're now changing where these streams are going to go. And it's starting to happen. And I've seen it firsthand. Like, I know this is real and it's unfolding. So that is that choir of angels teaches us humility and service. So then the next choir is very bizarre looking, and their form is actually kind of notorious in the Bible. It's probably the most notorious angelic representation in the Bible, and that is the Openm. And the cherubim are also very strange looking. And in fact, in the book of Ezekiel, when Ezekiel sees Ezekiel's wheel, what he's seeing is he's seeing an Openm, the wheels within wheels with eyes on the rims, right? And often have sort of celestial fire and lightning around them. And then within it was riding a cherubim that had the face of a man, the face of an eagle, and on the other side, the face of a bull, and on the back of its head, the face of a lion. And that represents Aquarius, the man. Scorpio, its old form as the eagle. That was the ancient form. Scorpio was the eagle, not the scorpion. And then Taurus, the bull, and then Leo, the lion. So the fixed signs. And so the Openm are very strange. They're a bit like, you just have to be a Gen Xer to get this reference. They're a bit like Kit from Knight Rider, that old 1980s TV show where David Hasselhoff and he had this car that would talk to him. It was sentient and it had a personality, and it like had AI that was like full blown sentient, would like make jokes and stuff, and clearly had a personality, and mostly lived to serve and had certain parameters you couldn't violate and so forth. The Openm are a bit like that. They're these spiritually self-aware, almost, they have a certain machine-like quality to them. And I'm not saying that at all in a denigrating thing. I mean, they're these very sacred, holy beings, but they're just very strange, and they're vehicles. And they teach us that we have to be a vehicle or a conduit for the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit of the Most High, to move through us. We have to get out of our own way, and we have to act as a conduit for this grace to move through us in the world. In other words, we have to, while maintaining our personality, we have to, as much as possible, heal our ego so it shrinks down. Getting out of the way so that way we can experience that polarity of goodness that I think so many of us are aching in our souls to experience. This is what I realized. I love this world and I want to help it. And so I am willingly and intentionally moving into a high level of polarity in alignment with this Most High polarity. This is harmony and healing and compassion and love. And I'm making that decision. And I'm trying to get my ego as much as possible out of the way, not my personality, which is flamboyant, but my actual ego. And then getting out of the way so this Spirit can move through me, so I can be a vehicle of the Holy Spirit. So then there's the cherubim, and the cherubim, as I said, have the four different faces. They have four wings, and then they have those four different faces. On the front, they have Aquarius, the man. On the right side, they have the eagle, Scorpio, the eagle. So the man, Aquarius, air, Scorpio, water, fixed air, fixed water, fixed earth, Taurus, and fixed fire, sun. Representing those four elements, they teach us that the universe is elemental in nature, and that if you work to shift things at an elemental level, which is very deep symbolically, when you get into all the different things that the different elements represent, and you harmonize those parts of yourself and you do that inner alchemy, you can then alchemize things in the outer world in response to your inner alchemy. Because with the angels, we're doing invocation. We're inviting the angels to help us on an inward journey to change ourselves so we can be in more alignment with natural law and with divine harmony and with the Most High frequency. Changing things at a fundamental level through a symbolic interaction with our own consciousness. That would be the best way to put it. That we might transmute ourselves, that we might then in turn transmute the world, right? In a positive way, to bring about a more harmonious, more loving, more compassionate civilization and culture, starting in the, for me anyways, in these golden age enclaves. I won't speak for anyone else and what they will do. Then there's the Seraphim and their final choir. And this is one that's just dead wrong. The things out there about them. There's things out there about them that say that they're serpents or lizards. I don't know where the fuck that came from. That's not my experience of them at all. They're phenomenally beautiful. They do have a weird thing. In order to hold the frequency they have, this is something angels revealed to me. All beings that hold this super polarity frequency have to hold a little nugget of the opposite polarity within themselves, which means that all these super mega demons have like a little positive nugget. And you see it in the yin yang symbol where there's that little eye. There's that little eye of white in the black yin circle. There's that little eye of yang in the black yin circle, and there's that little black eye of yin in the yang symbol. So in a similar way, you have to hold it. Okay, let me put it to you another way. I have to have total consciousness of my own darkness or feelings or dark tendencies, right? Almost like a dry alcoholic. Like, for example, my porn addiction. I need to, like, I'm not like now not an addict. I'm just an addict who's in recovery who isn't watching, going out and watching, consuming tons of hardcore pornography the way I was, right? Like, I'm not doing that, but I didn't eliminate that aspect of myself. I came to peace with that, and I hold it very controlled. It's much like they say, a peaceful man isn't a man who's weak. It's a man who's capable of killing, who holds that in check at all times, except for, where it's appropriate to release the righteous wrath, right? So by a similar token, in order to be at these super high frequencies, they have to hold a tiny aspect of themselves that is has this sort of darkness in it, right? But they appear as these unbelievably beautiful human beings with 6 wings, and they have eyes on their wings, and their frequency is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so harmonious. When I'm not like at the peak of my game, it is the one choir of angels to where I still feel intimidated is not the right word, just kind of awed at their purity and their grace and their incredibly high vibration. And they're the closest to the Most High, and they're the furthest from us in frequency. And what they do basically all the time when they're not, I guess, talking to people like me or whatever, is that they're singing in praise of the Most High. They're singing in delight and joy at the existence of creation itself. They're singing at the frequency that allows for all of creation to exist, and they're singing in exaltation of the beauty of that and how beautiful existence is and how all grace and glory goes to the Most High. And they're there to teach us that this life is supposed to be a celebration of the Most High. It's supposed to be a celebration of this beautiful garden that we're in. It's supposed to be a celebration of everything we're doing. And the damn Malachian consciousness gets us dragged down and in that rat race and like forgetting that, and unfortunately in certain arenas like business or what have you, you can't really have this hippie Most High attitude. It's not going to work, right? Like endless people have been crushed by trying to do exactly that. But we need to have increasingly large spaces in our lives where that's true, with like our family and our friends. Go out and see your fucking friends. Be sure you're going out and like actually spending 3D physical time with your loved ones. And that's where you can experience. Go out in nature. If you have a shitty family and maybe like for whatever reason you don't have a lot of friends, go at least to a park in your city, and if you can get out into full-blown nature and go on a hike, and then you can start to feel that and open back up. And really everyone should get into nature if they can, and everyone should, if at all possible, try and reach out in their social circle to have that kind of connection. And so that is what the 9 choirs of angels are there to teach us.